Hi, I'm Nick Bolton, the founder of ICCS, and in this Bitesize Knowledge video, we're going to take a look at I3, continuing the series of the 7-item model. So I3, what is it? Well, essentially, it's the relationship between the coach and the client and the dynamics between them, because every single relationship will be unique in its own way. So we might look at the intervention, I2. We might look at the client. But actually, a critical component of that is how the coach and the client relate and what that does to the intervention. The same intervention could land very differently with one person than another based on the quality of the relationship that exists between them. So when we're supervising, one thing we want to understand is what is the nature of this relationship? And there are a few ways into that. One way that's classic, of course, is using, say, metaphors. And we might say, if this was a kind of dance, what sort of dance would it be? Does it feel clumsy? Does it feel awkward? Does it feel flowing? Who's leading? Who's following? Are you both trying to lead at the same time? Or are you both trying to follow? What's the nature of this dance that's unfolding between you? And how is that facilitating the coaching to take place and to be effective? So one way is the metaphors. Another one, by the way, is using the desert island analogy, which is if you're on a desert island together, how would you operate? Would you go off into your separate zones and never see each other? Would you build a hut together? Would you be laying out a great big sign that says help? What would be happening on that island between you that would actually indicate something about the nature of the relationship? There's a really beautiful way, by the way, to overcome the rational sense-maker parts of our thinking when it comes to the relationship, where you might be tempted to say, oh, it's okay, it feels a little bit awkward sometimes. When we use a metaphor, we get straight to the essence of the quality of that relationship. But there are some more theoretical approaches we could take. For instance, if you were to come from a psychodynamic perspective, you might start looking at things like countertransference or transference. Now, countertransference is what you as a coach, or what the coach projects onto the client. Maybe a figure from the past, an authority figure or a child or a lover or something that you project onto that person. And so you start to imbue them with certain qualities. And that by imbuing them with certain qualities, you start to act in a particular way. Perhaps you're overprotective or over-challenging or over-critical or over this or under that or under this. There's something about that relationship that you create because of the projection that enables that makes you behave in a certain way. That would be countertransference. But equally, that could be transference coming your way. What is the client potentially transferring onto the coach? And how, as a supervisor, do we help that coach see that they're being put into a particular place of in that person's mind? Have they become an authority figure? Have they become somebody that they can collude with? What is happening there? In a slightly more technical perspective, there's something called projective identification, which is where you as a coach, or let's say if I'm supervising, the person I'm coaching, finds themselves behaving in a certain way that is alien to them. But what's really happened, if you take a psychodynamic perspective, is that the client has projected onto them a certain quality, and without realizing it, they've adopted that quality. The coach has adopted that quality and is feeding it back. That's called projective identification. We are being given an identity, we unconsciously take that identity, and we then act it out with the client. So we create a self-reinforcing kind of dynamic. That would be taking a psychodynamic perspective. Now, of course, we could also take a transactional analysis perspective and start to look at, well, what are the ego states at play here? Is it parent-parent, parent-child, adult-adult, child-child? What's happening with the coach and the client that is creating the nature of the coaching that's going on? Now, by the way, it's worth saying that most people bring to supervision challenges. It's very rare, and probably rightly so, that we sit there just celebrating lots and lots and lots of successes. Kind of be a bit self-congratulatory. It's good to recognize successes, but let's be honest, you go to supervision to address challenges. And so it's natural that when you're looking at I3, it's because there's a problem somewhere in the coaching. And that could be its effectiveness or its outcomes, or the way it feels, and all these sorts of things. But it could be the relationship as a part of that challenge. It could be that, as a coach and a client relationship, they are coming from a parent-parent perspective or a child-child perspective or whatever it might be that's causing a problem. Both coach and client are sitting there criticizing the sponsor of the coaching. It's a parent-parent ego state that seems to assume they know best. Or if they're both sitting there feeling powerless, it's a plenty of child-child ego state that's been evoked, which is not helping the coaching. So you can take a TA perspective. It really doesn't matter how you find your way into this. The point is that the supervisor needs to begin to bring out what is the quality of that relationship and how might it be shifted if that relationship is part of the challenge that the supervisor is bringing. And it might not be, by the way. It could be as simple as switch of the the intervention style, or it could be something else, but it could certainly be the relationship is a core part of the thing that needs to change. So that's I3, extremely useful I to look through. And in the next video, we'll take a look at I4, where we start to look at the coach themselves. Thanks very much. See you on the next video.